throughout the night, people were asking questions to obviously the candidates. It's a town hall event, but they were all written down, and some seemed, well, not necessarily how a regular citizen would ask a question, but more how perhaps an MSNBC producer would ask a question. I think the best example of that was this.
So my question to you is, I'm a student, so I like how you want free education, but what is your plan to possibly achieve this, being that it would cost about $70 billion, my bad, per year,
Yes.
more than twice what the federal government
Yes.
spends on Pell Grants.
Excellent.
Wait, I'm not finished. Would free college make higher education more efficient, more innovative, and higher quality?
Okay, I don't know if we're making too much hay out of it, but it sounded like with the more efficient, the higher quality, that there was a producer somewhere along those lines who helped her massage that question a little bit. So understand how this works. They know the questions ahead of time. There was a lot of questions that could have been asked. They selected the ones that they liked. The question is, did they then say, okay, you want to ask about free education? Let me help you write that question, right? And I think that's what happened here.
You need another over-the-top moment here.
No, they realized that they gilded the lily, because then Chuck Todd came out right after and goes, hey, this is a real question here.
Yeah,
like
so
they realized they blew it on that one.
Yeah, we were talking about it. We were tweeting about it throughout the debate.
Yeah.
I think others picked up on how staged the questions seemed to be. She had no idea that it was $70 billion. Like, they wrote down a number that she had no grasp of, and so like she didn't come into that debate going, oh, I know how much the Pell Grants and everything costs, and it's $70 billion, and I can't, even though I want the free education, I'm going to try to bust them on how much this costs as opposed to the Pell Grants and yada. No. The producers were like, let me help you with that, right? And it seemed like the producers kept helping in the direction of asking questions to Bernie Sanders that were framed against them, right? So, oh, you want free education, but how are you going to pay for that, right? And almost every question was framed that way. That's not an accident.
Yeah.
They didn't just randomly happen to find all the people who were against Sanders and had really good either Hillary Clinton or Republican framing against them. They kind of manufactured it in the writing of those questions.
And John, I'm sorry. We have town hall fatigue because the dynamics of these town halls have fallen into this very entrenched sort of dynamic of back and forth where there's no follow-up or engagement of the person asking the question. Obama was really good at this. What the candidates need to do, once again, is play again, take the media, stop being dictated to by the media, and ask the girl, where do you go to college?
Yeah.
Engage her. She's human. She read the question. Make her break her from her script and say, do you have friends who have trouble working and going to college at the same time? And is that a realistic expectation? Should we make people work at this? Is it possible? It's actually impossible to work and go to college at the same time unless you want to get your bachelor's degree over a 10-year period. I'm making it easier for those people to get those degrees to contribute to the economy. So in other words, just break the media. These guys are being pussies with the media. Republicans are not. They challenge, they belittle these little anchor people and their formats. They don't listen to the bells. They don't listen to any of this prescribed stuff to them. These guys are obeying to this process and need to break out of it because both on the left and the right, they are pissed off at the media and think they do a terrible job. You obviously do. On the right, they're pissed too. So why are they playing this game?
Yeah. Sanders needs to do a better job in breaking through on that. And I agree with you that it'd be nice to have a conversation with that woman. Okay, I understand the producers wrote this question for you. Now let's actually have a real conversation. Like where are you going, etc.
Which not only gets out what she's actually interested in this topic, which is not that it might cost exactly twice as much as Pell Grants or whatever it was that they put in there, which isn't to say that she couldn't have figured that out or didn't know that, but that's not how a person would actually portray that. They would say it sounds like it would cost a lot.
Right.
But it would also, like they always want to be seen as humans, and that's why they always say, well, I met Bessie in Des Moines, and she said, have a human moment right now. Don't tell us about the human moment you had 6 weeks ago at a campaign. Stop. Have one with that woman.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about what you were saying a debate or two ago. They should be doing that. And again, I know that we're expecting too much, but if they're going to be doing follow-ups, as they seem to be willing to do, if that's going to cost $70 billion every time every Republican candidate says we need to rebuild our military, which costs how many hundreds of billions of dollars every year?
Yeah, we need a new
700
Navy.
billion?
We need a new Navy.
Yeah, I don't know how much rebuilding it costs, but I have a feeling it costs at least 10%.
Right.
Which would be as much as the free education for all of American college students. So perhaps bring that up if we're talking about literally at least as much money.
Yeah. And then finally here, I want to show you what Wes was alluding to, which was Chuck Todd later in the debate, having realized we might have pushed the overproduction of this a little bit much and showed our hand, so he did this.
By the way, Senator, I just want to show you. She really worked on this. She wrote it on a piece of paper. This is clearly, just so you know, I was very impressed.
See, now that was another question, and he bothered to point out that she'd written it out herself. Now, why would you say that unless you were being weirdly defensive?
Yeah.
That was a Steve Harvey moment from the pageant. It says it right here. It's on the card. We're not making it. No, I mean, yeah,
It's
you're
not
right.
me. I didn't do it.
It is
I didn't do it.
defensive. And then Jose Diaz-Balart did the same thing right after it when he followed up. I'm like, and this one, and he did a joke with it. But they're bringing papers in here with words written on them, pencil and paper, these kids.
Do not pay attention to anything behind the curtain.
By the way, when you're scrambling to cover your ass, it makes you say stupid, awkward things like, see, she wrote it down. I'm really proud of her.
Yeah.
Proud of her for writing down
Wait,
her question? What
they're
the fuck
all
does that mean?
supposed to have brought in their questions, so why would you be proud of her?
Yeah, it's not a drawing you're going to put up on your fridge. She's not a 4-year-old. Why are you proud?
Yeah, look, so we had
So
to write out the
condescending.
questions for everybody else. So this one I'm proud of. You know, like I said during the live
just
coverage, it'd be
weird.
like all of a sudden Chuck Todd saying, I don't want anybody to get me wrong, I'm not wearing women's underwear. Okay, if you say so.